but preparation leads to execution, and execution leads to being 1-0. And you always want to go 1-0 in every single day and every single walk of life. Whether it's a meeting, whether it's a game, whether it's practice, I want to be the best player, person, leader, brother, friend I could be in every situation.
All right, we are back for another episode of Under the Number. Today, I'm joined by Sean Clifford, current Green Bay Packer, all-time leading passer for the Penn State Nittany Lions, the longest tenured captain in Penn State history, 2023 Rose Bowl champion, offensive MVP. Sean, thanks for taking a second to chat today. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Brent. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I know you're heading off to camp in just a few days, so really, honestly, thank you for squeezing it in. This is a buzzer beater in the offseason.
No doubt. We like buzzer beaters, though. 2-minute drill.
So we're going to talk, of course, we'll give the flyover of your football career and your main focus in life being a professional quarterback. But you also are an exited founder. You've built a business starting when you were in college. I heard that the idea was hatched in a college class at Penn State. And now a serious investor doing venture, early stage investing, and very much a part of the ecosystem. And you've got your Clifford Capital group rolling. So we're going to go through all of that. My first question is, take me back in time to July 2021 when college football changed forever in the midst of your career. What was going through your mind as a player and then as a forward-looking potential entrepreneur? What was rattling around in your mind when that landmark decision was made regarding NIL?
Absolutely. July 1st, 2021 actually threw me back all the way to January, probably not first, but whenever we returned to classes, January of 2020, I was in a creative advertising class, and actually in that class, the brand case study that we had for the semester, the final project that they had, was to quote unquote recreate a brand. And a lot of people were doing the Cokes and the Pepsis of the world. And in that class, a year and a half before NIL legislation changed, I ended up doing the brand case study on my own brand, the Sean Clifford brand. And I did it with this guy named Trevor Robinson. Shout out to Trevor, fantastic human being. But we ended up doing the project. We got an A on the project, so at least academia thought it was worth anything at all. And then on that date that you mentioned, July 1st, 2021, when legislation passed, the first person that I called was Trevor, because we brought that project out for the first time. And to be honest with you, we were probably the fastest movers in NIL within that week, because we had quite literally everything right in front of us. We had planned for that moment, and as an athlete who wanted to be active, that was I think the biggest difference that actually really boded well for myself and everybody that I kind of brought around the circle there. Was I wanted to be active. I wanted to make the calls. I wanted to sell. I wanted to go to the directors of marketing and the C-suiters and be able to negotiate my own terms, my own deals, and really, really have skin in the game when I was going through my process with NIL. So I remember it like it was yesterday, that conversation with Trevor. I was literally coming back from New York on a kind of a school trip through the football program. It was an immersive experience. And I called Trevor up and I was like, it is time, brother. I know we haven't talked in a few months, but it is absolutely time. Would love to have you as my manager. And we ran with it. It was myself, Trevor, and my brother, who is my partner in business and in life, to be honest with you, other than my beautiful wife. My brother is my right-hand man. And it was the three of us taking that class project, pushing it forward. And wow, was that 6 months was an absolute blast, I will be honest with you. So that was my experience in that first week, for sure.
And so when you wanted to immediately put your foot on the gas and charge at that opportunity, you were going from 0 to 1 on building an agency. Is that the model that you set out for?
It wasn't. It was not even in my mind at the beginning. To be honest with you, it wasn't selfish. It was just the next step. I was trying to just build my own brand, and we had just won the Cotton Bowl in 2019. Then we kind of came in. I was in my third year starting, so I had a lot in front of us. We had about a month, as you can imagine, before August 1st. Football camp started, and then another month during the camp to kind of set the stage and see who we wanted to partner with, what deals we wanted to do, and obviously with the brand case study that we did, all the different contacts that we were kind of acquiring through that time, we were able to act on it pretty quickly. And so it was hitting the phones for that first month, the three of us, just calling about my own brand. And through doing that, we created a very, very cool vehicle to be able to, for a player, buy a player, cultivate brand activity and brand sponsorships, marketing, memorabilia, camps, events, you name it, we did it. Was able to give back to Big Brother, Big Sister, which is one of my favorite community service groups in the entire world. They do a fantastic job. I had 2 little brothers in my career so far. Definitely will get back involved. I'm a little busy at the current moment, but definitely want to get back in on the saddle with Big Brother Big Sister soon. So that first 6 months was really just focused on myself, and then we finished the year. I decided to come back for a 6th year, granted through the COVID kind of crisis there. And it was the best decision I ever made because realistically, it helped me get drafted in the 5th round, which I was a dream of mine for a long, long time. So to hear your name called was one thing. But then on the flip side, it was to create Limitless NIL, which was the agency that we created in 2022. So that was the beginning, the start, and really the roadmap for that agency, the operations, the manual, honestly, the exact game plan for that business was created in the 6 months leading, because I just figured out as an athlete exactly how to do it. And we developed the partnerships to be able to kind of move it forward. Started very young with 3 clients at Penn State only. Anna Camden is one, fantastic women's basketball player who ended up transferring, but she absolutely crushes it, does sports media now, fantastic athlete. Jair Brown, shout out to Tig is his nickname, but Jair Brown, one of my best friends in the whole world, fellow captain at Penn State. He went ahead and signed on with our agency, which was really, really cool. And Miles Dredd, who actually now does reporting for the Big Ten Network, which is really, really cool as well. He was a basketball player at Penn State, but it grew from them to about 50 clients nationally, and a whole lot of it was some interesting days to say the least, but a lot of highs throughout that whole time. Learned a ton about marketing, selling, business, operations, leadership, communication skills, the whole gamut. So really, really thankful for that team.
So even with a playbook, like you mentioned, that you found to be relatively scalable, getting up to 50 people across the country, how did you actually mechanically operate that business while also running into the 100,000 plus person stadium at Penn State, winning a Rose Bowl, as we talked about? I mean, talk about time management required to the max. How did you go about that? And I'm sure there was a lot of trust that you had to have in your actual team around you, but walk us through that a little bit.
I think you mentioned the number one key word right there is team. It was all about team. It was the village that we kind of had around us that I'm very, very thankful for. A lot of people that came into our organization that truly helped, whether they were employees or whether they were partnerships. A lot of different people driving the boat and helping us move in the right direction for a lot of great causes. Putting dollars in athletes' pockets, being able to have athletes accomplish their dreams outside of their sport, both men's and women's. It was an amazing, amazing deal. But really, it was that time management. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. It was getting up early, 6 a.m., going in with my brother. We lived together during that year, which was, that was one of my favorite times of my entire life, was living with my brother in college, playing at one of the best universities in the country. But we would drive into the facility early morning. We would pretty much just talk business on the way in of what we needed to accomplish for the day. Stretch, kind of had a nice early morning routine, get some breakfast. That would be kind of where we would have our discussions. Our team, this is one of my favorite parts of business I'll ever have. I don't know if I'll ever have more fun than the startup world of what we were living in. We actually went to I used to live at this place called the Yards, and they had this beautiful facility, kind of clubhouse facility, and it really started to heat up because it was really living out of my apartment for the longest time. Our company, we would do workshops in the living room. I mean, like any other startup known to man. But eventually, when the summer came around in May, everyone went home, and and this is where I was scaling up. We had about 6 employees at this time, and I went to the facility, and I was like, hey, you have a beautiful spot. You have a bunch of meeting rooms empty because no one's here other than us and some international kids. Would you mind if we just set up shop in here? So that was what we did. They were very, very nice enough to do that. Shout out to the Yards. Great facilities over there. Great spot if you're looking for a place in State College. I highly recommend. But it was interesting because then we would have people coming in. We'd have people flying in to come see us, have business meetings, whatever. And it turned into, they're driving into this facility and they're thinking, what is this, an apartment building? And they would drive in and they would go up to the front desk and eventually the front desk lady would be like, oh, are you looking for Limitless NIL? Yeah, right to the right. And then you take a left. And it truly turned into a full scale operations. We'd have like an international student doing some homework on the side every once in a while. Like I did not want to take away from what it was meant to be, but it was an amazing time. But we would drive from the facility in the early morning. Our team would be there at 9. We'd run a team meeting at 9 to 9:30, and then we would work until noon. my brother and I would kind of have like an all up meeting at the noon spot, say, okay, checking in with everybody. What does everyone need? And then we would go and work out, do our workouts during the day. And then when we'd finish right around 3:30, 4 o'clock, we would roll back, and then that would be the time when everyone was wrapping up, and we'd have an all up meeting to finish the day. So it was one of those things where it was, in the facility to work, to back to the facility to work, to back to the living room to just ideate and create and think of ideas. So it was an absolute truest form of a startup you ever could form, with a bunch of people who had never done it before. But I'll tell you what, a lot of those people are still doing it today, and I would even call some experts in the field because it was on the groundwork of what NIL is moving forward.
Well, it's so important to be able to compartmentalize as a quarterback.
Yeah.
Hearing next play, the last play doesn't affect the next one, all these things, and to focus and to be very present. That had to have actually really helped you in that situation where I could see a lot of people saying, you can't do both. Like, what are you doing playing quarterback for Penn State and trying to run this company? Where you could also argue, I think the soft skills that come with run both of those roles, an executive or a quarterback on a leading college football team, there had to be a lot of things that translated very, very well, probably actually both ways, like in a two-way street fashion.
Yeah, and I actually have a story for that. I love to tell stories because I've been able to meet so many incredible people. But during my draft prep, this is after the company had exited and we had finalized that, and there was a bunch of news articles out there. I was in my draft prep and my draft process, and I got invited to a top 30 visit to Green Bay, and that was my first top 30. And I walked into the GM's office, shook his hand, Brian Gutekunst, shout out to Goody. We sat down, and the first thing he said, he slid a piece of paper across the desk. There's a printout of an article of our exit, and he said, "Sean, do you even care about football anymore? I mean, what is this?" And it was hilarious to me because it's very fair. I mean, to be honest with you, you're looking at a prospect that is also running a business. I mean, what is going on here? And I told him, very straightforward, very honest, that the intangibles of what I was doing in the business, because if you know me, you don't really see me out much. I am a at-home body. I like to just work and play ball. And if I'm not playing ball or watching film or working on my body, I'm doing business. And if I'm not doing business, I'm doing the opposite. So it's very, very two-way street there. But I told him that all those intangibles, the leadership, the communication skills, the tenacity, the drive, the effort, all those things built me into the quarterback that you see now today. And really, like you mentioned, the Rose Bowl, that was my best season. And it was when I was running the business. And it was because I wasn't playing video games. I wasn't going out. I had my soon-to-be wife. I didn't even know at the time, but I had a feeling. So I was pretty locked in. And I just told him straight up, I mean, that was why I had such a great season. And, our team had so much success is because you saw a Sean Clifford product that had no other intention but to win football games and to win in business. And to be honest with you, I did not get invited to the combine. I was not on anyone's draft board. And then about a week after that interview, I heard from every team in the National Football League. And I got drafted in the 5th round before really anybody even, after everybody had wrote me off, which was really, really incredible. So I attest a lot of my success in the football world to business. I attest a lot of the business success to football. I owe a lot of people a lot. And I'm very, very humble to say that as well.
I mean, not to mention I can't really imagine. There are so many viral videos of Penn State being one of the most raucous stadiums in the country, if not the most. There's the classic clip of Shea Patterson at Michigan during the whiteout game.
That was my first whiteout game ever. It was that game, right?
I think a lot of people who listen to this have actually probably seen that clip, but for those who haven't, tell them what I'm referring to, because it's an unbelievable moment.
So just to put in perspective, I mean, there's 107 at the time. I believe it was about 110,000. I don't know how they packed an extra 3,000 people in that stadium, but they claim it, and I believe it. But in that game, it was the first play on offense. They had just rolled out. Now, mind you, you're supposed to have the play coming from the sideline, so I don't know what the miscommunication was. But the stadium was so loud, and it was shaking so much that they had to take a timeout on the first play of the game just to get it going. And that was right then and there. I mean, that was probably the 5th game of the season. It was the 5th game of the season. We were 4-0. Michigan was ranked as well. That was my kind of welcome to college football. That was my first time starting in a game. I'd seen the whiteout, but it's different when you're on the sideline. And when that place was rocking like that and they called that timeout, I had never heard anything. And when I watched that back, for a lot of people, it's an amazing, it's an amazing experience just to watch it. But if you pulled that up right about now, I would quite literally get goosebumps. I'm kind of getting goosebumps in a way as well, because you could quite literally feel that energy. And so, yeah, that is the epitome of college football. And let me set the record straight. The most electric environment in all of college football is a Penn State whiteout. That is just a stamped thing for me. I cannot, bias, no bias. I don't care. I'm standing on that.
Well, it's incredible. And I was going to, that ties into your QB1 running out into that environment. How did you deal with nerves and pressure and just stepping onto a stage that size as a, 19, 20, 21-year-old kid? And of course, as the rest of this interview is going, how has that translated to the way that you prepare for a huge pitch as you're trying to raise capital, or if you're trying to close a deal? Like, what have you taken from that? Does everything else feel very small and insignificant when it's all put into perspective?
I think it honestly feels the exact opposite. It feels like every move I make is very significant. It feels like every single time that I wake up, I have a extreme purpose behind what I'm trying to do. Right to the left of me is my monitor, and I have a full-scale calendar with, if I'm eating lunch, I'm eating lunch. If I'm traveling from somewhere, it's marked. I am very, very time blocked. I make sure that every single second of the day, even if it at the back end after 6:15 of my workout and I travel back here, I literally have family time from 7 and on until I go to bed tonight. So I'm very, very strict with how I go about my time because I want to be present in every moment. And so to answer your question, I think it's about being present. I think it's about being in the moment, living in the moment. There's things to do, breathing exercises and making sure that you're coming in with intentionality. But I think that that's what really preps me as a quarterback, and it preps me as a businessman, is using those intangibles and then using those skills to really prepare me. Because Matt LaFleur, I'll give him the credit, fantastic quote, but preparation leads to execution, and execution leads to being 1-0. And you always want to go 1-0 in every single day and every single walk of life. And so that's really what it is. It's whether it's a meeting, whether it's a game, whether it's practice, whether it's the most simple exercise of sitting down on the couch and being with my wife. I want to be the best player, person, leader, brother, friend I could be in every situation.
Back to Limitless NIL, you end up achieving a successful exit. Tell me about how that deal went down, how you were approached. And I assume at that point, you said you'd reached dozens of clients across the country. Was it that you, obviously you had revenue to point to, but was it also you'd had this long string of successful brand activations and partnerships that you had effectively brokered or pieced together? What was it that they were so attracted to in your business? And then how did the deal actually go down? What was it like being a part of a transaction like that?
Yeah, I mean, when you're a hustler, because I'm very clear, you could look it up on my bio. I graduated with a comms degree. To be honest with you, have never been a very, very big school guy. I've never really enjoyed school. No offense to all my professors. I think that there's a time and place for everybody, but it just wasn't for me as much as it is for other people. But for me personally, I've just always loved making money, and I always love kind of that 1-0 mentality of winning. I'm very competitive in that sense, whether it's playing a video game against my brother or if it's playing in front of 100,000 people, I want to win. So the exit was it was probably the simplest kind of process, and I never had really studied that process. It was a guy came in, and I thought it was going to be a memorabilia deal from a group out of Philadelphia, and they were talking about creating a marketing company, and they had really they had some traction, but they wanted a little bit more of a leg up, and it was as simple as that. You have what we don't have currently, and we would like to move toward that move. And for me, I was going into the National Football League, or at least trying to go in the National Football League. And I wanted to focus in a way. And I knew, I was kind of fronting the money at the beginning just from my NIL earnings in the past. That was kind of where our seed capital had come from. So I never even raised capital. So this was kind of to a shock for me and my brother, but it was also one of those things where we kind of evaluated everything. We evaluated where we wanted to be, where we were going, and just the overall trajectory of the company, because I also want to do what was best for the employees. I want to do what was best for everybody involved. So it just made the most sense. And then when the transaction came through, it was more so just getting the numbers to match and make sense for everybody involved. And when we got to a decision, it was a pretty seamless process from there.
So once that was done, get a little bit of money in your pocket from a nice exit. You're heading into the NFL, probably, certainly dealing with more money than I assume you had as a college kid.
Yeah.
Was your natural next step as such an entrepreneurially minded guy who, like you said, likes to be 1-0, likes to get deals done and make money? Was the next step, I got to start doing effectively angel investing with a little bit of this? I need to get into the ecosystem. How'd you play that?
Yeah, I had done a little bit of angel investing before. To be honest with you, they were all zeros, and I had learned from the process because I didn't really know what I was doing in the investing world at the beginning. Didn't really have a process, and I think that process, we talked about it before, is very important, because that's the execution that leads to the execution that needs to be had. So with those kind of weird one-off, small, very small check investments, I had kind of learned what not to do, which is actually honestly sometimes better.
No doubt.
To take some losses, to feel some pain, so that way the process and how it's supposed to look. So, it wasn't right off the rip. My brother and I really he was going into his first year starting at Penn State, candidly, and I was going into my first year in the National Football League, backing up Jordan Love, and for probably, I would argue, one of the best franchises in the world. So we actually really just took that time to focus on ball. And then after that year, we really started to sit down and think about, okay, what's next? What is our investment thesis, and how do we need to go about this? I mean, there's a quantitative, a qualitative, an investment committee process that needs to be at hand. And with that process needs to be background checks. There needs to be diligence done. I mean, how do we do that? And how do we go about our business with that? So hiring a good team, making sure that everybody's in place, and that our time, because it is limited, and I am very, very, open and honest about, the fact that I am reporting to camp on Friday. It is one of those things where it cannot just be a willy-nilly, let's just throw some paint at the wall and hope it sticks. It needs to be a process where we are very intentional. And I think that it has led to that. It's gotten to what I think is one of the better sports funds out there at the current moment. Very proud of our team. Very proud of what we're doing right now. No zeros anymore. It's very, very, every company is looking towards markups, moving toward the future. We don't really invest in pre-revenue, so it's all companies that are true product market fits in the market and have a very good longevity plan and how they're going to scale, and making sure that we're also active in that process, because at the very beginning stages, if you're going to be a venture fund, I believe personally, I might be pissing somebody off who doesn't believe this, but I believe that you should be active as a venture fund. You should be, honestly, a pseudo kind of chief innovation officer, a development officer in that company, looking out for their best interests at hands, because you not only have that responsibility to yourself and that company, but also to your LPs and the people that trust you with their capital as well. So, have developed that process, have met fantastic people like your boss, Michael Moe, and many more, to be able to cultivate kind of that idea and, that ideology, that thesis that we have, this strategy that we have, to make sure that our investments are smart and scalable as well.
And so, the process of going from an individual angel investor to now having, is it Clifford Capital? Is that what this is called?
Clifford Capital and the New Era Fund 1 is the first fund we have, yes.
Okay, so having a true Fund 1 that you've raised and are deploying capital, how a lot of people, I think, would be curious, if you can peel back the curtain a little bit on how you go from a guy with a little bit of change in your pocket who's able to, give 25K here, 10K here, and look at some interesting stuff, compared to having backers, having a sourcing mechanism that you can replicate, and like you mentioned, a specific evaluation process where you're diligencing deals, all these things. Talk a little bit about that, going from, the small time investor to something much more official, where now, I mean, just looking at your LinkedIn, you've got investments in health and wellness businesses, in sports tech companies, coffee companies, media companies, including Mr. Beast.
Right.
Just talk about that, because that's like stepping up into the big leagues.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that it was time for it. I think that we had developed the relationships needed to move that needle. And that was really, I didn't want to just jump into the process without knowing exactly what we were getting into. So it was a lot of studying, it was a lot of preparation. And then once we came down to that thesis fit, and really what we like to coin is sports adjacent assets. That's kind of, what we hang our hat on, is assets that, other people might not see, because, I'm 27, and, young in the space.
Hang on. I got to cut you off. It's your 27th birthday. Happy birthday. Thank you for doing this on your birthday. I should have shouted that out earlier. You're 27 as of, 12 hours ago. So
yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate the birthday wishes. No, it's, for me, a younger guy, I know that. But the one place that my brother and I have both had a lot of success, and also very humbly, we know the space better than most, is that sports world, and specifically what lives in the facilities. So what we kind of coin as sports adjacent assets are assets that touch the facility in whatever way, shape, or form. We have that key card access to kind of get us in there, whether that be our own facilities or our access to players across the country, whether that be professional sports or collegiate sports. And you see all these different companies that have real true, and I go back to the product market fit, because that's really the key. Because when you have new companies, it's always tough to see. There's that lifespan, and I like to put it in a bunch of different cycles, but there's really 6 cycles, right? You have that you have the prototype, you have your testing phase, and then you have this introduction to the market. And at that introduction stage, before true scale, is this interesting spot in sports where they're really trying to collect logos more than anything. I think that's the easiest way to put it. They're trying to collect the logos of the Green Bay Packers, the Penn State Nittany Lions, right? And trying to gain that trust from the consumer, saying they're taking it. This elite facility is giving it to their elite athletes, so you should take it too. Whatever it is, whether it's a tech company, whether it's a sports solution, whether it's a CPG brand, those different businesses all have opportunities at hand. And what we have is the relationships we've been able to cultivate over the time. So being able to drive those relationships to dollars in revenue for those different companies allows us to then be that smart capital in the deal. But then when I mentioned the sports adjacent, really when I say adjacent, I mean that when that company, whenever that sports company is ready and proven in that space, maybe truly the leader in whatever category they're moving toward, what is that next sector? Is it industrial? Is it healthcare? Is it military? Whatever that silo is, that's where this offseason, personally, just a kind of a step back into my life, I've been trying to really, really gain and garner relationships in those different sectors at the top, right? Who are the best in the world, best in class, that are actively participating in these different groups, whether that's an M&A advisor, whether that is a C-suite member at a very, very, a Fortune 500 company that has a direct correlation to kind of where we'd want to go, a roadmap to where we want to go, a playbook, as I always like to call it, keep it in my football sense. Mm-hmm. But, being able to have that play. And then once they're prepared for that, as they continuously raise capital and they move toward those different progressions, being able to then move them into that silo with the right people to make sure they scale the correct way. And that's really, the gist of how we invest. Those sports adjacent assets that are driving towards success just need a little bit of a leg up and really can use the help as an active athlete and as an active investor to be able to push them kind of past that ledge and allow them to now pursue ultimately the peak of the mountain.
So as much as you can say, I understand if there are things that are still kind of private, talk through the Mr. Beast deal. How did you end up on the cap table of the biggest creator on the planet?
Yeah, that was one just through the network. And that was one, that was a separate from the fund itself. It was an SPV that we were able to do with Jimmy and his team, Jeffrey Hausenbold, the CEO. But it was one of those things where they were looking for investors in the sports and media world. And that's one place where I do have a decent amount of relationships. And it wasn't like it was, Mr. Beast, let's just raise money for him. It was a deep dive. We diligenced that just like any other company. And it taught us a ton, honestly, because the numbers are much larger when you're deploying into a company like that. The revenues are very high, the stakes are very high, and the vision needs to be painted out very, very clearly. And I thought that team did a really good job of that, because it wasn't about just the media. It was about the ultimate vision of what Beast Industries really is. And that's why I was so bullish to tell all my friends about it, because the vision that he is now kind of captured is the fact that it's not just media. It is Feastables, right? It is philanthropy. It is events. It is all the TV shows on Prime. I mean, being able to not only launch a TV show, but be the number one TV show. I mean, it might even surpassed it, but on Prime Video, Mr. Beast, the Beast Games was quite literally the number one live television show ever on Prime Video, and it was going to surpass at the time, has probably surpassed the most watched video of all time, which was Lord of the Rings on demand. So it was one of those things where all the signals were pointing in the right direction, and it was a very, very easy answer as you looked at it. The valuation, I mean, you're dealing with $8 billion valuation. Let's just be honest. It's a very, very large company. But at the end of the day, I am still and very, very excited to see where Jimmy and their team goes with everything, because I think it's a consolidated company that really, really makes a lot of sense. And I think that it's doing it better than most celebrity brands, solely for the fact that I mean, you see it all the time. And I don't want to shoot down like a Prime, or even I'll even use another investment we have in Happy Dad, right? Kyle and that team with the Happy Dad team, Sam Shahidi, the Shahidi brothers, really, really driving that boat. And I think that Kyle does a really good job of this as well and understands this. But Mr. Beast understands that it is not just about the celebrity. It's about the product. It is about what you are actually putting out. Is that solid? And I mean, Prime has kind of came full circle now. I think they're doing much better. But there was even in the media a bunch on how Prime was struggling because the product just wasn't at the same level as what their media was pushing. But Beast has done that. Beast has been able to kind of put that in the same regard. So whether it be a true exit or if it's an IPO, I think it'll hit the market really hot, because a lot of people see that not only from a, oh, I like the product of Feastables, I love eating the candy, or my kids love it, or my kids watch the YouTube all the time. It has hundreds of millions of views. But really, at the end of the day, it is the greater picture of what media means. I think that was really what we had to break down, was a philosophy perspective of what does media mean moving forward, and what do those rights mean moving forward, that IP. And that IP, in my opinion, is not worth where it is today. I won't just throw out the value. I won't give out all the numbers. I don't know what I can say and I can't, so I'll just leave it at that. But I believe that there is a much, much greater IP to what Beast is building right now.
It's very interesting hearing from someone like you. You're, like you said, 27 as of today. You are a backup in Green Bay. There are lots. I mean, you had an unbelievable college career. It's amazing that you're, still a professional player. But there are lots more marquee names than you in the NFL as of right now. That said, I think there is absolutely zero question that you are in the 0.1% of kind of business savvy and strategic probably thinkers in professional sports. Probably, not just your league. What is the advice that you would give to fellow professional athletes who, I mean, a lot of people would die for obviously the money and the fame, but also just the influence and the doors that get open for them in a business perspective. What is the advice that you would give to them to make sure that they better utilize the position that they find themselves in as young, high energy, influential, professional athletes?
I think it's very, very basic. I think it's self-awareness. I think that that's sometimes lost in society. I think that sometimes people just aren't self-aware of where they're at. And it's honesty with yourself. I think that's the core and the key of self-awareness, because ultimately in all of this, you are who you are. We always like to say in the building, film does not lie, right? If my deep ball to the left sucks, my deep ball to the left sucks, and I need to work on that. So being able to be self-aware in everything that you do in life will only allow you to be the best, your best self. And so what I would encourage everyone to do is kind of do an internal audit and, audit yourself, really understand where you are currently and where you want to go, and know that it doesn't need to be super sexy right now. I am no Pat Mahomes right now. I'm not even a Jordan Love right now, right? I mean, he's one of my best buddies in the entire world, but I'm just not at his level as of to date. I'm willing and really ready, going into Friday to compete, to be at that level every single day. But there's ways to be able to continuously go through that process, make sure that I'm doing all the right things to, be self-aware, know what my flaws are, and work on them every single day. So with that self-awareness, I think that you'll have an enlightenment as well to who you are, what you can do, and what you really want to stand on moving forward, because that's where I'm at. I feel like, I know my flaws, I know my strengths, and I can play to both in every situation. And being able to make sure that I'm having that self-awareness and able to be present in every moment will only allow myself to continue to get better. So I encourage every athlete, just be self-aware. Do not lie to yourself, because that is the one thing that a lot of people do. They lie about their situations to themselves, which is probably worse than, honestly, someone else lying to you about your situation. So just being real. Be real with yourself. Make sure that you're going toward, the goals and aspirations that you have in mind in the right way, the honest, God-honest truth way. And then just strive toward that goal every single day, because I will say this. Alex Ramosi is one of my favorite entrepreneurs, and I'll kind of leave it with this one. but he was on a podcast, and on the back end of the podcast, he said, do so much volume that it is unreasonable for you to not have success. And that is what I do every single day. I try to pack every single second of every single day with the immense amount of volume that one day, whether it's ultimate success, a little success, or no success at all, I can sleep really well at night because I know I put everything into it.
Those are some wise words right there. All right. Well, Sean, thank you so much. Tell people where they can find you, whether that's just to say hello, make an introduction, or potentially pitch a company.
Yeah, so if you're just trying to follow me, Instagram, Twitter, SeanCliff14 is my my @ there. But if you're trying to get in contact, LinkedIn. You connect with me. I please don't use some AI generated intro. I used to do that, and I know that it doesn't work. It doesn't work with me, and it won't work for an investor, so don't do it. But just write a nice little personalized message, and I would love to connect with whoever, because that's the name of the game.
I can attest to your LinkedIn game. This is how this happened. It's how it came to be.
It is.
Sean,
This is exactly.
Happy birthday again. Best of luck going back into camp on Friday. We'll be watching, following along this season, and also following along to all things Clifford Capital. So I hope we can stay in touch, and thanks again.
Appreciate it, Brian.